Welcome to Spectrum News at 12. I am Janice Cobham coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Tinubu makes opposition lawmakers elect today over National Assembly leadership. Federal government to consider TUC's demands, set up committee to review minimum wage, plus NATO urges Turkey not to veto Sweden joining alliance. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Very good afternoon to you and many thanks for joining us on the news at 12. First in the news this afternoon is Nigeria's leader, President Bola Tinubu, who will today meet lawmakers-elect of the National Assembly from opposition parties as the National Assembly leadership tussles intensifies. Opposition senators-elect and House of Representative members-elect from the People's Democratic Party, Labour Party and the New Nigeria People's Party, among other opposition parties, are expected to meet with President Tinubu at the State House in Abuja between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. The President's notice of invitation to the lawmakers-elect, which was obtained by media, was signed by the Permanent Secretary, State House, Tijani Umar, on behalf of the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila. While the opposition senators-elect will meet with Tinubu by 3 p.m., opposition House of Representatives members-elect will gather at the same venue to discuss with the President by 5 p.m. Though the notice of invitation did not state the agenda of the meeting, it was gathered that the leadership of the 10th National Assembly would be discussed. Moving away from that, the federal government says it will consider the list of demands from the Trade Union Congress TUC, which includes minimum wage. Speaking to State House correspondents after the meeting between the federal government and the TUC, which lasted for about 3 hours, the spokesperson for the federal government, Dele Alake, said that it will also look at the practicability of the demands. Among things the government is considering is tax holidays for workers. Alake said that most fundamentally, President Bola Tinubu will constitute a tripartite committee to include states and organized labor and the private sector to study the dynamics of the minimum wage augmentation to reach an amicable conclusion. According to him, there is no disagreement with the Nigerian Labour Congress NLC over the demand for a review of the minimum wage or a return to the status quo, noting that the federal government's representatives will meet with the president to crystallize decisions on the demands. He added that the absence of the NLC to reconvene on Tuesday, 24 hours before a scheduled strike by the NLC. Meanwhile, the TUC has maintained that the federal government, in the interest of social dialogue, reverts the price of fuel while discussions continue. President of the TUC, Festus Osifo, said the union is hopeful as the federal government promised to look into their demands, the top of which is a review of the current minimum wage, among others.
Minimum wage.
Yes, the demand are so long, there are so many. Yeah, there are so many. Part of it was the demand for a minimum wage. And we stated that for us, it is quite apt that the minimum wage today is not a living wage, as we all know. The value of the minimum wage since it was negotiated has plummeted to a very abysmal level as it is today. In terms of social dialogue, that they should revert back the pump price. Why?
And from the red chambers now, the Senate has indicted the office of the Accountant General of the Federation, AGF, over failure to repay short-term loans given to ministries, departments and agencies from special funds accounts, totaling 910 billion naira. The lawmakers discovered this after a thorough investigation by the Senate Public Accounts Committee, chaired by Senator Matthew Orogide, following the submission of the 2017 Auditor General Report. According to the query, loans and debts arising from special funds loans were meant to be short-termed. But the Office of the Accountant General, in its response, claimed that several letters had been written to the Minister of Finance to authorize the settlement of the loans granted against allocations of various MDAs affected. The AGF office added that it had requested the minister to include the payment of the loan in the 2017 budget. Removal and the attendant hike in pump fuel prices across the country, the union insisted that it would not hold any dialogue with the government representatives until the presidential villa, Abuja, last week, which ended in a deadlock. This is as the electricity workers vowed to join the strike and plunge the nation into a blackout in protest against the removal of fuel subsidy by Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. The National Treasury of the NLC, Hakeem Ambali, confirmed the decision. In a related development, the Nigerian Union of Journalists (NUJ) has directed its members to withdraw their services and commence protests nationwide from Wednesday if the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) refuses to reverse the new price regime in the online emergency Central Working Committee meeting of the union. The meeting, he said, was convened to discuss issues surrounding the decision by the federal government to remove fuel subsidy and the position taken by the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC). Leman noted that after presentation by the NUJ National President Chris Izigozu and the National Treasury Bamidele Atumbui on the position taken by NLC on the matter, members unanimously adopted the position of Labour Union on the issue. In another development, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAP) has urged President Bola Tinubu to probe the $2.1 billion and 3.1 trillion naira subsidy payments allegedly missing and unaccounted for between 2016 and 2019. SERAP made the call in a statement by its Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadari. SERAP urged Tinubu to set up a presidential panel of inquiry to promptly probe the grime allegation that $2.1 billion and 3.1 trillion naira public funds of oil revenues and projected as fuel subsidy payments are missing and unaccountably act to follow due process of law in any policy to remove fuel subsidy, ensure that suspected perpetrators of these crimes against Nigerians are brought to justice, and full recovery of any missing public funds. SERAP threatened that should the president ignore its demands to order a probe, within 3 days it will resort to a lawsuit. In Africa, the deputy head of Sudan's ruling council, Malik Aga, has welcomed negotiations for a further ceasefire, but said no truce can hold until all forces are withdrawn from the capital. According to Aga, the talks represent the best hope of ending the fighting. Reports say Sudanese military leader Abdel al-Burhan recently appointed Aga, a former rebel leader, to replace his former deputy, Mohamed Hamdal Dagalo. Meanwhile, there has reportedly been an alarming escalation of violence in Khartoum and in the western Darfur region since the negotiation in Saudi Arabia broke down last week as the army and the Rapid Support Forces (RSF) accused each other of violating the truce. And still in Africa now, the Red Cross in Senegal have said that almost 360 people were reportedly injured in violence that broke out after the opposition security forces in the capital Dakar and Sonko's home city, Ziguinchor, as supporters of Sonko say his conviction on charges of corrupting a young woman are politically motivated. Meanwhile, the government has restricted access to the mobile internet to stop what it called subversive messages from being shared. We move now to the foreign scene where NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg Stockholm's membership. Secretary General Stoltenberg speaking with newsmen in Istanbul after meeting Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his newly appointed Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan disclosed that the membership will make Sweden safer but also make NATO and Turkey stronger. Stoltenberg noted that officials from Turkey, Sweden, and Finland will be meeting next week to attempt to resolve the issues that have delayed Sweden's NATO membership, referring now the local governor of Russia's western Kaluga region, Ladislav Shepshar, has said that 2 drones crashed on a highway in region today. Shepshar disclosed this on Telegram, noting that 2 unnamed aerial vehicles, UAVs, came down on the M3 highway between the towns of Hizra and Dominici. The governor added that the devices did not detonate and the area has been cordoned off. And still to come in the news. Flying Eagles crash out of South Korea in Under-20 World Cup. Do stay with us. Many thanks for still being there. Now to the rest of the stories. In business, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has said that Nigeria's electricity export crashed by $58.1 million in 1 year amid grid collapse. According to data from the Central Bank of Nigeria, the value of Nigeria's electricity export was $213.66 million in 2021, but dropped to $155.56 million in 2022, representing a 27% drop in earnings from crude oil exports. Reports say that the total power generation capacity loss for the sector between 2015 and August 2022 rose to 1.76 trillion naira due to unbundling the industry in November 2013, among other factors. And still in business now, members and non-members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, have agreed to quote crude oil production volumes in order to ensure global oil market stability, allowing Nigeria, Congo, and Angola to continue to produce maximally to their OPEC quota of 2023. Saudi Energy Minister Abdulaziz bin Salman, in a statement at the 35th Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee meeting of OPEC held in Vienna, Austria, disclosed the agreement to extend voluntary quotas through 2024. Reports say the Nigerian head of delegation to the meeting in a statement noted that OPEC had also agreed to allow these countries to continue to produce maximally to their OPEC quota of 2023. And in health now, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has insisted on their demands for at least a 200% increment in the CONMA salary structure. They also demanded that the associated allowances, which they had made known in their July 7, 2022 letter to the government, be met. This was disclosed by NARD President Dr. Emeka Oji in a communique issued at the end of a scientific conference hosted in Lagos. Furthermore, they called on some state governments to ensure that the health sector is revived while asking the federal government to declare a state of emergency in the Nigerian health sector as the era of paying lip service to the monster called brain drain should be over. On the issue of subsidy, NAT suggested that the money saved from subsidy should be put into meaningful investments that would better the lives of all Nigerians. The body called on the West African colleges of surgeons and physicians to immediately discontinue the practice of charging NAD members using parallel market exchange rates.
We insist associated allowances as contained in our letter to the government dated 7th July 2022. We have resolved to give the new government some time to urgently resolve this matter, which is incidentally at the root of the massive brain drain we are having in the health sector. We call on governors Adelapo Abiodun of Ogun State, Alex Oti of other states, to urgently look into the situation in the health sector in their states, capable of breaking down the industrial peace in those states, to ensure that monies saved from the removal of subsidy are judiciously used and put into meaningful investments that will better the lives of all Nigerians. Health and education should be prioritized. We insist.
And still in health, the Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities, PWDS, Osun State Chapter, has urged Nigerians to treat people with disabilities with more respect and to stop subjecting them to abuse that could dampen their morale and self-esteem. Chairman of the association, Stephen Idowu, made the appeal in Osogbo during a two-day capacity building training. According to Idowu, PWDs are already struggling to survive in a society that hardly provides for their basic needs, and subjecting them to other forms of abuse would make life more difficult for them. He noted that they should be encouraged and shown more respect, shunning any kind of treatment that can bring down their morale. We move now to sports, where Nigeria have bowed out of the 2023 Under-20 World Cup after slumping to a 1-0 defeat against South Korea yesterday. The Flying Eagles enjoyed the earlier exchanges but failed to make them count in the quarterfinals clash. While the game ended barren after normal time, it only took South Korea 5 minutes into extra time to head home the lone goal of the match. The Asians will now play Italy in the semi-finals of the competition taking place in Argentina. And still in sports, Mexican side Leon has won the CONCACAF Champions League crown for the first time, defeating Los Angeles FC 1-0 to seal a 3-1 aggregate victory over the Major League Soccer champions. Argentina striker Lucas Diori's first half goal proved decisive as Los Angeles goalkeeper John McCarthy failed to grasp the South Americans forward, scuffed short for the game's only goal in the 20th minute. Reports say the win means Leon will qualify for this year's FIFA. On our entertainment news, Norwegian comedian Viggo Vane, known for his high-energy routines and high-vis yellow jackets, has won the latest series of Britain's Got Talent. Reports say Van beats bookmaker favorite Musa Motar, an 11-year-old amputee dancer from South Africa, and teenagers Liliana Clifton, as well as Cillian O'Connor, who came in second and third place respectively. Vance won the trophy prize of £250,000 and a slot at the Royal Variety Performance. Still in entertainment, EastEnders have won the top prize at the British Soap Awards, while Coronation Street took home the most trophies. Jane McDonald's hosted the awards in Salford on Saturday night. She replaced former This Morning presenter Philip Schofield after he quit ITV last week. Accepting the Best British Soap Award alongside the EastEnders cast Perry Fenwick, who plays Billy Mitchell, said they are thrilled to bits. The drama also clinched the Top Lending Performer Award for Danielle Harold's portrayal of Lola Pearce Brown, a character who recently died following a train tumult. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms, and do ensure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website at spectrumtv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 12. I am Janice Cobham. Do you have a good afternoon?